All right, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome to my Joseki Lecture 8. So today we will wrap up the variation from last time. So last time we talked about a few variations following this one. We said what to do. We talked about what to do after this one. So Black can go ahead and play this one out, or Atari first and then play this one out. So check my previous video out if you haven't checked it out. Today we'll talk about the last variation, that is for a way to just extend at G17. Black needs to crawl once more because otherwise this turn is going to be too big, right? It puts too much pressure onto Black. So Black needs to mitigate that. And then Black should go ahead and probably Tanuki and play somewhere else. So this is the end of the local variation. The game will keep going. Let's say we play out a few moves and later on, so locally, White later on can play this one out, right? White has a nice cut over here that you must know in this local variation. This is a very nice follow-up for White locally. I mean, it's good to know, right? It's if your opponent never seen this, he might suffer a loss from here. So if Black counterattacks, we can go ahead and play out this one and check. We have 3 liberties, Black has 2 liberties, right? So we captured the group and got ourselves a lot of territory. And this is a very bad continuation for Black. First of all, there's no more cutting here. Second, the 2 stones are dead. So this is not a Joseki at all. So this is called a misplay by Black. So Black has basically 2 choices. He can go ahead and Atari here. If he does so, we can go ahead and play the flipping Atari. This is very, very cool move. If Black extends, we can start a ko immediately. Right? Black takes the ko, we can go ahead and just find ko threat elsewhere. Right? So, and this ko is a flower ko for White, pretty much. So Black cannot extend, so Black's correct move is to take, and we can Atari here to put pressure onto Black. So Black needs to take. Likely we go ahead and find a ko threat, and then Black gets rid of the threat, and we can go ahead. We can either Atari and go ahead and capture this, or we can just directly go ahead and capture this. I think would be nice. So when Black gets rid of the ko, we can go ahead and play out this one. So we sacrificed a bit of corner profits, but we got outside benefits by capturing the F3 stone. So that's a very good tactic locally. And finally, if Black plays out this one, we can just Atari. If Black takes, we can always throw in. If Black connects, we can go ahead and do something else. So we can go ahead and play out another 3-3 invasion Joseki. And we already gained some benefits locally, right? So just look at what if we got a move here. Our shape looks very nice, a lot of ice space, and it's very thick. So that's just a nice follow-up locally, right? Like connecting here is just, it's okay, but it's not ideal. So the perfect follow-up is for you to cut at C18. That's a really nice move that you can play out in your games. Maybe not this early in the game. Maybe play out big moves outside, and then later on, maybe don't even honey here. Just go ahead and play out other variations like this, and then you can play out that sequence whenever there's no obvious big moves outside. As for Black, the way you continue is to later on look into potentially make use of the F15 weakness. So let's say you would play out things. I don't know, I'm just illustrating. Let's say you ever have a 2-space extension, you can you can go ahead and get your peep here. So it's very hard for white to counter strike here because you already have supporting stones. But if you just go ahead and play this one right now, white can counter attack. So this would be a little bit premature at this point. So this is very hard to deal with for black, right? If you cut, I can jump out and start attacking you. So that's not very good for black. So really the key to this Joseki is, it's about timing, right? When white is going to get the chance to play out this one. And as for black, what he's hoping for is to eventually go ahead and peep at f16. If ever he can get this exchange, that's a very good exchange for black. So that's what he is going to be hoping for later in the game. So really need to master the timing in this local variation. Alright, so that finishes our Joseki variation on this one. So when white honeys, black honeys, we covered pretty much everything, right? So we covered this one, that's a long time ago, and we also covered this one, and today we covered this one out. So this will complete the variation for this one. So I hope when you encounter this situation, this is not going to be a problem for you anymore. So today we will quickly mention the other main variation, that is for white to play out this one, that is to play at f17. This is also played a lot in pro games, and this is probably the most complicated Joseki. The reason being that there's this dude in China, his name is Mi Yuting, and this guy invented this move. And the variation that we see today, the fighting like this is because of him. So yeah, he just made everybody's life more complicated for no reasons. And yeah, he's pretty hardcore and it's pretty crazy. So there's a lot to study in this variation, and I won't cover them in my Joseki videos, and the reason being that there's no point, right? This Joseki is keeping changing. People are checking AI every day, and things change once in a while, right? AI even have different understanding of it from time to time. So like this week, it recommends you one variation, and the next week it's a new variation. So this is the crazy, mysterious thing about AI, is that it's also constantly learning from its neural networks. So I'm not going to cover that one. So let me first conclude something. As white, I don't recommend you to play the f17. But you really want to play it, you can go ahead and play that one out. As for black, my recommendation for you is to play e17 and go back to something that we already know, right? So this one, you know it, so you can master that. You go ahead and play this one out in your game. Okay, so that's my recommendation for black players. But if you're white players and your opponent plays out this one, and you don't know Mi's invention, and you don't know really what's going to happen after the fight, here you have a very simple variation that is for you to honey at b17. And if black plays out this one, we can return to this main variation. And this is going to be pretty good. And let's see what black can do. Black can bump, and this is also the same variation, right? So our idea is to return to something that we already know. The only thing that black can do here is to probably play this one. And white will extend and black honeys. And now it's very important to remember that white should just play out the G16. So you might be wondering, why can't I just go ahead and cut black off like this? Well, it turns out that black can just play out Atari, and when you Atari here, I can go ahead and cut you off like this. And that is a big problem, right? So check this. You have this problem. This is a double Atari, and white is just collapsing. Which is why at this point you probably capture, and black's going to extend. And turns out this is really, really good for black. And the reason being that black can later on have this variation, right? So white is not completely alive, and black got the side, and white is in a very awkward situation. So, but if, let's say, white adds a move to fix, then black can go ahead and play somewhere else. And check. Black has 2 stones already outside. He's got a corner. He's got approach, right? So he's very fast. And white is a bit over concentrated, so not a great variation for white. Moving on, so the correct variation is actually for you to turn here, and black is going to extend himself, and yeah, basically here white can go ahead and tanuki, and that's it. This is a pretty interesting variation to play out. The other variation for you to play out as white, maybe a little bit harder to understand, is for you to honey. Black plays out this one, and white plays a K16. That's also AI recommended, but I'm like, what? This is really hard. It's probably really hard for my viewers to understand what is going on. Like, what the hell is going on here? Black's got a corner. And some stones trailing here, and he can potentially run out. Not right now, but he can later on do that. Very hard to master. So I think a good variation is for you to tanuki, right? You can go ahead and just build your moyo. And if black plays out this one, not a problem. We can always come back and make ourselves more solid. And this is pretty much territory over here. This is just an equal game. Moving on, black needs to worry about the E18 later on, not right now. So he's going to go ahead and probably, not this one, probably play out the approach. This is just an equal game moving forward. All right, so that was a lot to cover. Let's just quickly recap what we talked about today. So we briefly wrapped up this one. We talked about that at this point the key is for black to aim at this peep, and for white to later on for white to go ahead and play out this cut at C18. So that's the key things that you need to remember for this simple Joseki. And we also talk about playing F17, right? Not necessarily the move I recommend. I recommend you to play the extension. Easy to master, but if you want more, I guess, flavor in your games, you can go ahead and play out F17. When you encounter the F17 as black, though, you go ahead and return to the knowledge we already know. That will be awesome. But if you play out this one, let's say your opponent plays out this one, you can go ahead and avoid the complication, avoid all crazy Mies variation by playing the honey, right? Anything like this will return to the main variation, and certainly this one will also become the main variation. And finally, if black counterattacks, which he can do, we patiently extend out. And G16 is really a key move here, right? Like we talk about why this is not going to work out. So the G16, black defends himself at H17. And now white can go ahead and tanuki, or he can choose a very weird variation like this one. So this is super weird variation. I mean, at least I don't master it very well. And I think black does not have to extend right now. So black can go ahead and just tanuki, right? This corner is alive. We all know why by now. And yeah, super weird. If you like weird game, go ahead and play these weird variations. I don't know how to continue. I think both sides should tanuki here. That's to my best understanding, but try it out. I mean, what is the fun if you always play out the same damn variation, right? So go ahead and try this one out in your game. It'll be fun. Alright, if you liked the video, give a thumb up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you guys in the next lecture.